So I would like to call the Town of Auburn Economic Development Committee meeting to order Thursday, December 11th, 2025 at 5:30 p.m.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Welcome, everyone. I'm Paul Delaquila. I'm the Assistant Town Manager and Director of Economic Development. I think this committee hasn't met in a few months, so I figured it might be a good time, certainly for my benefit, if we can go around the table and we can all introduce each other before we get underway to the substance of the meeting. So, I guess, Patrick, why don't we start your end and go this way?
Sure, just two-minute flip on me. My name is Patrick. I'm a resident here in Auburn. I've been here for about 35 years. I recently retired. My reason for joining, or when the opening came up, I'm your newest member. Why I came on board was because when I saw the bank go up on Southbridge Street next to Bank of America, I really thought that, we had developed a master plan and we'd begin to see some mixed use, and we were on our way to really making some strides in Auburn. And then I saw the bank appear, and that's like bank number 8 in a series of a quarter of a mile. And so it just got my goat enough to feel like I really wanted to step in and be a part of that. And then knowing that, we were making transitions. I'm recently retired. I have both municipal and private industry background. The majority of my background is in financial management in the private industry. And then the latter part, in the last 5 years, I went into municipal for a period of time and retired. Just to sort of cap off. Had a lot of influx and learned, saw a lot happen during COVID, and it really impacted both industries, private and public. So I'm here because I'd like to hope that we can help make a difference, and I think there's a need for bringing in the developer, and I'm excited about being new on the board.
Okay.
Oh, hi, I'm Mary Loria. I'm a resident here of Auburn. I've been here for almost 12 years. For work, I'm a finance director for a local municipality. And so that's one of the reasons why I joined, because I have different experience in different communities. So I thought I could, bring different ideas here to Auburn.
What community, man? Can I ask it?
I work for the town of Grafton.
Grafton? We'll wait for me. We'll go this way.
Sure. Hi, so I'm Mike Villa, also an Auburn resident. I've lived in town for 21 years, so I'm almost can say I'm from Auburn, but not quite. My kids certainly are. I'm also a business owner here in town. I own Dovetail Internet Technologies. We moved to Auburn last year, just about a year ago. After about a 20-year effort trying to bring the company to Auburn, we were finally successful. That experience and hoping to pave the way to make it easier for other businesses to make Auburn key part of their community, and then to become part of the community was what drove me to join. Also, I serve on the board for Auburn Youth and Family Services and recently concluded a 2-year term as board president.
I'm Donnie Ganley. Grew up in Auburn my whole life, went to school in Auburn, graduated in 2017. When I was in college, studied public administration, so just became interested in, kind of how a municipality operates. So at the time that I had joined, I think it was about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, was just looking to, try to get involved in some way, in my time outside of work. So I worked for National Grid as assistant project manager, so kind of have that background, but as well as, like I said, I studied public administration, so that background as well. So just looking to, be involved in the town that I grew up in, and, would like to see it continue to do well. So.
Excellent. I have 2 quick questions if I could. So Donnie, do you prefer Donnie?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay, good to know. Thank you. And I'm having issues getting in touch with National Grid, so maybe we could talk. Welcome aboard.
Did you
and we'll keep going. We'll go back around. Lindsay.
I made it just in time. So I'm Lindsay Baker. I have lived in Auburn since, when was that? 2019. And my husband and I have a 5-year-old. So we feel very connected to Auburn by virtue of having our first and only child in this town. I spent 15 years before my current job with an economic development focused nonprofit, but they were international. And so I was excited when I moved to town to see that there were kind of nice opportunities to get plugged into local community, hyper local. And so it was, EDC seemed like a no-brainer. And yeah, I've been on since I think 2020. So yeah.
Great. And I think, full disclosure, I met Mike and Lindsay at one of my first days in Auburn.
Yes.
There was an event over at Youth and Family Services, and so that was a great fun day.
Yeah.
And we had some conversations, so looking forward to continuing that. So I guess I'll introduce myself officially. Again, Paul Delaquila. I'm the Assistant Town Manager and Director of Economic Development. Directly prior to here, I was with the town of Boylston, where I was a town planner for a combination of about 5 years. Prior to that, I also worked for the City of Worcester, town of Upton, and then also in town of Spencer, where I was also / Economic Development Director there, in addition to being the town planner. So again, just some other additional staff-related updates. I'm sure many of you or most of you remember Brooke. Brooke is no longer with the town. She unfortunately left before I started, so I didn't have a chance to work with her. So at some point, we'll be looking to fill that position, and that position will also help this committee and me going forward with that. Also, somewhat related, and this for folks are aware, our town planner, Dr. Adam Menard, just got another position in another community, and he'll be leaving at the end of the month. So that's another position I'm going to have the ability to fill.
Mm-hmm.
I will be filling the planner position first because that's certainly a key task.
Critical.
To keep the planning board and other boards supported. We'll have an ad out probably within a matter of days, and so hopefully we can fill something fairly soon. But so far I started here at the end of September, so I've been here about 3 months. And just to give you a quick snapshot of what I've been working on. So first of all, besides getting to know everybody and getting to know the lay of the land here in Auburn, one of the first meetings I had along with Town Manager Joy Vecchio when I got here was we met with some representatives from Mass Development and the Mass Office of Business Development. I'm sure you're familiar. One's a state agency, one's a quasi-state agency. Mass Development, they do a lot of funding and grant work with communities promoting, again, as it says, economic development. And so we wanted to forge some good relationships with our state partners. And also they have a lot of leads of folks looking to move, relocate, and access to resources that we can bring to bear, whether it be in grants or other things. And I'll talk about a couple of those opportunities in a minute. So making connections at the state level, trying to meet folks in the community, and trying to get lunch in town every day, trying to support the local businesses. And then also one thing we're starting to do as well, and this is more of a, not just me, but sort of more holistic effort, we're looking overall at our development processes, our combination of our current regulations. When someone comes to, I'm pointing down there, you know what I'm talking about, but at the window over the building department where people come to submit their applications down the hall on the second floor here. How does that work? How's that getting reviewed? Is it getting reviewed in a timely, efficient manner? Are the boards being advised properly? Whoever's the planning board, zoning board, whatever board, are they getting the right information they need to make those decisions? So we're taking an overall look at that to see what we can do to streamline things. Obviously, we need to uphold the laws and the regulations, but if there are things we can do to streamline, we're going to do that. So Patrick alluded to this. Patrick also wears many hats. He didn't mention he's also on the FinCom. But he also...
Yeah, I sit on a few other boards here in town, wage staff, finance committee, and so forth, but I just figured I would keep that quiet.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put that on you. I apologize.
No, we're good.
But Patrick he noted I appeared at the select board on Monday to alert them to some grant opportunities, and I'll tell you about them right now because they're related to this, potentially related to the work this committee is doing or might do. Folks might be aware of Central Mass Regional Planning Commission, called CMRPC. That's our regional planning agency. So we have two potential things in the pipeline with them. One is sort of a smaller type thing to get some technical assistance with our hazard mitigation plan. The town undertook and adopted a hazard mitigation plan, I think in 2024. That plan has a number of action items embedded into it Don't ask me to list them to you right now, but there's a number of items listed. But with this technical assistance from CMRPC, if we're successful, they would be able to meet with town staff to look at which items are most easily implemented, and also identify potential funding opportunities to get those things implemented. So that's one thing, and that's one of the benefits of these grants I'm describing, is we're not putting any matching funds up front. This is just sort of applying, and the staff time we're using is more or less the cost. The second one, which is I think is much more interesting for this committee, is we've also applied for a technical assistance grant from CMRPC to do a development and permitting guide. And what that would entail, as I sort of alluded to, we already have existing processes, procedures, forms, all that. Did I bring the model with me? Silly me if I didn't bring it to show you. But kind of. No, I don't have it. All right. Yeah, so I don't have that one handy, but it's modeled after one that Charlton had done. I think I'm not sure if I circulated it or not, but I can send it to you after the meeting. But it's basically a big pamphlet that goes through step by step the process. We're talking everything from health, building, zoning, planning, conservation, and the idea would be for yes, an experienced developer probably has a lawyer handling these things, and then they know what they're doing. But we want to make sure if they're a small business or a local resident who is not familiar with the processes, they could pick up this up and kind of know what they need to do. Obviously, we're going to work with them. We'll speak with them and guide them along. But this is also, not only does it spell things out, it's a bit of a marketing piece because we'll have it embedded on our website. It can be downloaded. People can look at it, refer to it. Also, it's a chance for us internally to look at those processes, look at ways we can, better coordinate, better communicate. I think we do a good job of that already. Folks might be aware of something we have in town called the Development Coordination Group. That's something that meets as needed, but roughly every 2 weeks. And that's where, actually, we meet in this room usually. And it's basically all the departments that are relevant to development, with fire, police, public works, development inspection services, all those disciplines down the hall. And it's a way for a developer to come in at the very early part of a process, get guidance on what permits they're going to need, what board they might have to go before, what are the prerequisites they might need to do before they can go forward. So instead of having someone just show up here and wander around the halls trying to figure out what to do, this is a way to kind of get everyone in the same room. It benefits the potential applicant, but also, again, I think benefits town staff because we're not all located in the same building. We're not all located on the same floor. And so it's a way that we can all talk and everyone knows what, theoretically, who should be handling what aspect of that application. So this guide will really, I think, reinforce that, but also really, I think, give us an opportunity to improve that and, publicize that process a little better. Last but not least, it's not a CMRPC grant. I alluded to mass development earlier. They're, again, state agency, and they have sub-regions, based on geography. So the Central Mass region people approached us, which is always nice, about applying for what's called a TAP program through the Urban Land Institute. So it's the ULI-TAP, TAP. What that entails would be, if we were successful with the application and we just turned in the application, it would be a one-day intensive workshop. It'll be sometime in the spring, TBD. But it'll be a one-day intensive workshop where the Urban Land Institute in Boston will bring together an array of disciplines. We're talking architects, marketing people, real estate people, planners, architects, all the development-related professions. They come to town, we do an intensive one-day analysis of a particular section of town. In this case, the section of town we're looking at would be the section of Route 12 that extends from, I call it the Yankee Drummer site, but the old Yankee Drummer site, which is, I think we call it the Laneway site, stretching north on Route 12 up to the mall. And so the vision of this would be the vacant site on the southern end of that corridor, and then the parts of the mall that are sort of fallow, I guess that we call them the Sears sites, the former Sears sites. Looking, how can we reactivate those? How can we get those back into productive use? And how can we also attract an appropriate development to the vacant area, closer to, down by the pike over there? And so we're hopeful and optimistic that if we got this grant and we were able to do this workshop, these folks will be able to bring in some, well-established outside experience and bring some ideas to the table, whether it be we need to change some zoning, we need to change some design regulations, we need to provide a financial incentive, we need to come up with a financial instrument to promote development and investment in that corridor. The specifics will be kind of worked out through the course of it. If we're successful, we'll find out. I'm not sure exactly when we find out, but we also have to produce sort of a briefing packet for these consultants who would be coming in, so they can, they don't have time to learn about everything, so we need to provide that to them, so that when they can hit the ground running on that day. So it's literally a day-long event that starts, first thing in the morning. They do a series of meetings. We identify stakeholders in the corridor. We already reached out to through our friends at the chamber. We're in touch with some of those banks we're talking about, but ways we can, leverage the local experts. But then the end of the day would culminate with this consultant group making a presentation to the select board, sort of detailing what they find and making presumably making different recommendations. So, we haven't talked. We haven't got. This group hasn't talked about it when we might meet again. But if we're going forward with that, I would intend to keep this committee fully updated and hopefully get this committee's involvement on some level when we get closer to that point. But the actual event though won't happen until the spring, probably when I don't want to say this. I don't want to say the S words, no. But we'll see what happens come later March, April, and to make it easier to hopefully do that work. So those are just I know I'm just throwing a lot out there. I'm sorry if I'm talking too quickly, but definitely excited about these things. So those are the three fairly fairly interesting, fairly light lifts from an application standpoint. But I'm optimistic they'd have a good effect, especially I think the development guide would have a really strong effect, both, especially internally, I know it would. But this TAP program potentially would have some really, potentially wide ramifications for the town. We don't have a formal town center with like the typical New England town green and this and that. We have a green over here, but it's not a real commercial center of town. Our commercial center is kind of that Route 12 corridor that we just described. So we're not trying to leave other parts of the town out of the mix, but we did have to sort of focus it in. And certainly given, we have the zoning map over there with the Drury Square Village zoning just north of the mall. And then we have the sort of the snake of the highway corridor going down to the other development site down there. So we're excited about that opportunity, and we definitely hope to get your input if we're successful. So, cross your fingers this holiday season. So that's a quick whirlwind through some of the things I've been working on so far. So, it's not quite 90 days I've been here yet, but we're getting into it, and sort of just so you understand, in addition to me supporting this group, working with the town manager sometime prior to town meeting. I'm saying in the spring, so I don't want to commit myself to a date, but we're going to present sort of my bigger picture plan to the select board about some of those things I think we need to be working on, and certainly would appreciate input as we go along from this group. So that's the thumbnail of what I'm doing.
Paul, can I
Do we have any questions at this point?
just given how hard financing is
Yes.
in local state, on the way up, are these grant opportunities ones where the funds are available? They're definitely out there. They're ones that you can apply for, or is there any worry that they are not in fact going to be available?
Well, sure, that's a very good question. In terms of on the books, we already have a TIF program, a tax increment financing program. I don't know to what extent it's been used as a tool in recent years, but that's one tool we already have in our toolbox, so to speak. I think the short answer is I don't know, TBD.
Yeah.
But I imagine, though, based on experience with similar type programs I've seen, it's going to be a mixture of real life programs we can apply to, and also sort of some aspirational things.
Sure.
And certainly there are things, if we're talking federal funds are a lot more of a mixed bag these days because they're recalibrating, without getting political here, they're recalibrating federal agencies and federal funding. So we're not sure how that's going to shake out. But I think we want to, and this is meant to be a practical tool for us. So I would hope that the ones they identify for us are ones that are actionable. One of the things I spoke about with the mass development folks, the state does have a series of grant programs that happen annually. One is called the One Stop for Growth that happens in the springtime. It used to be about 10 different grant programs that they're rolled into one. So that way towns aren't having to figure out which thing to apply for, and especially for a smaller community with limited staff, you can't apply to a bunch of different things. So this is a way to make things easier. And one of the processes behind doing this TAP thing in the spring would be that usually the one-stop grants are usually due in June. So it'd be a tight window, but we'd still theoretically have, hopefully capitalize on some momentum from that program and immediately apply to some kind of grant through the economic, through EEA, Economic and Environmental Affairs. I think that's environment, that's the one. No, HOLC, this one. Housing and Livable Communities kind of orchestrates that one. But yeah, so that's a good question, and we still don't know at the state level whether they're going to be increasing the funding or decreasing the funding.
Right.
There'll still be opportunities, but they may become more competitive.
Sure.
So all the more reason why, if we're able to do this good groundwork through ULI, it would enhance our case.
Makes sense. Thank you.
So, sure. Any other questions at this point? Okay. So one of the things I've heard, I've had some informal conversations with a couple of you and some also just town staff, and this committee hasn't met in a little while, partially due to staffing, but we certainly have. One of the things I've heard is like, what should this committee be focusing on? What are the things that can be focusing on? As it turns out, the select board has given us some ideas, and so they've made a few referrals. I think I forwarded you some information already. There's two things, and we can talk about them in turn. One thing that was referred to us from a citizen's proposal, and by Eric Richards, who was actually in the room with us tonight. We can perhaps have him join the conversation shortly. But there's a proposal for an establishment of an economic development and industrial corporation, the so-called EDIC, and that would have an idea for the use of Camp Gleason. I don't know if the folks familiar with Camp Gleason. We recently renovated that building, and we've had a couple of events there already, but is there a way to maybe make that productive for the town? The other item that's been referred to this group for discussion is to look at developing objective criteria for the tax classification. As you know, we have a dual tax rate here in Auburn, and so it's every year it's a bit of a, I don't say tug of war, but the select board and the financial folks are looking at what's the right rate, what's the right balance. We don't want to hit the homeowners too hard, but we also want to promote business. So how do you do that? So, but sometimes it just seems like it's, full disclosure, I live in Worcester, where they deal with this every year, and they just voted on it this week. And it's sort of we don't need to go through this, but I started to gather some info. And so they're given, the Worcester City Council is given a page of literally that has...
Are those all the shifts? Yeah.
It's like over 250...
Shifts, yeah. They focus on 3 lines.
And it's like this, and it goes by increments, like 0.1%
Right.
For residential, 0.1% for commercial, and there's a lot of back and forth about which one you should do. Anyway, but similar to Auburn in the sense of that there's the dual tax rate. So, so those are 2 things that we have. So, to the chair, I know this committee hasn't met in a while, and we're sort of still getting our footing back under us. But seeing that we have Mr. Richards here with us tonight, do we want to have him briefly describe his idea? And then we can, my hunch is, not to force this committee in a direction, my hunch is we're going to need to think about this and do some research and have this discussed more fully at another meeting. But in recognition of the effort that's been put forth, maybe if Mr. Richards is willing, he can give a quick take on what his idea is.
Yes, I think that would be beneficial for the committee to hear his proposal, and we'll have to go back and do a little homework and research. And
Okay. So, and I forwarded this information to you already, but here's some of the information about.
Oh, sorry.
So, Mr. Richards, I don't know if you want to come join us at the table.
I didn't realize it was there. Like this.
Sorry to put you on the spot, but I know
No.
you made an effort to come on down, so I appreciate that.
Never know when somebody has questions. Meet all of you.
So if you could just introduce yourself and talk, give a quick overview of what your thinking was and what your proposal is.
Sure. So the write-up that you have in front of you is vague on purpose, right? Because you all have access to information that I don't have. And so there are boxes and goals and other things that are not necessarily public. In recognition of that, I left you room to maneuver, to find what will fit best for you. I'm actually quite shocked that the town has never discovered this before in the last 40 years. It's quite the tool. the idea was, in the current fiscal environment, which I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but we have limited choices, right? We're looking at reduced reimbursements and kickbacks on taxes and local reimbursements from the state. We have a revenue issue. We have a divergence from residential and commercial taxes and other things. So we have to generate revenue from a place. We have a tremendous amount of underutilized assets. Camp Gleason was the low-hanging fruit, right? My understanding is the town has a yoga individual in there giving classes once in a while. There's a kitchen. It could make a great event space. With proper development and actual maintenance of the dam, it could be a swimming spot, it could be an outdoor recreation, it could be an ecotourism thing. There's a lot of directions to go that would bring in and generate revenue. But the revenue needs to be useful, and this is part of a vehicle that will allow that to happen. My macro concept was to have an EDIC come in, and this is a well-tread throughout the Commonwealth vehicle. It has a lot of different powers, and what you would do is you would work with the Chamber of Commerce, because there's a lot of overlap on that Venn diagram of things where the powers of that their 501c3 has and their access to chamber grants and specialty monies there that the EDIC wouldn't have. And so if we focus the two efforts in and we pour the revenues into a trust, it would enable the town a lot of room to maneuver and decrease expenses or possibly fuel investment. So a couple examples. Mr. Jones talked about banks. We have a plethora of financial minds in this town. Well, we also have a
I don't know
plethora.
if they were all thinking of Auburn when they took their positions on their street, but we'll move forward positively, but continue. Go ahead.
But they have those are folks that want new customers, right? They want deposits. They want to give loans. They want to fuel business through their own business. So we have a lot of entrepreneurs. We have an underutilized community here in the Auburn Housing Services and other places where folks may have home-based businesses, but they're having trouble with the scale part or the jump from my basement, my garage to a physical location. Circling back to the banks, they have expertise. They could mentor, they could set up and access to grants, they could give advice on how to make various decisions that will place them in a good spot to move forward, and they'll also gain customers and investment opportunities and other things from that. The town, through the EDIC, could charge facility fees, leases, other things to gain revenue without necessarily having to invest directly into an enterprise. Government does one thing well, it screws up everything it touches. So better to make it a mutually beneficial situation, or if you chose to take a minority stake, you could certainly do that and have some profit. How now the local or the most recent nouveau thing is to give back, right? Everybody wants to have a brand story where they're giving to a cause. And that's great. It inspires your customers, but it also brings revenue. So one of the things I thought we could do is, for example, there are a number of bakers in town. They do bread, they do, there are folks who raise chickens and sell eggs or other things. One of the areas the chamber is failing is they're not bringing businesses together. So what we could do is the town, the chamber, and the EDIC could get together and put these businesses with complementary supply chains together and let them vend and supply from each other, right? That keeps more money captive in the community where it could be used. And also, what the town could say is Camp Gleason's paid for. It's going to become a net positive revenue for the town. So for example, the kitchen. If one of those bakers moved into the kitchen, we could say, all right, so if your rent is $700 a month or $1,000 a month, your customer base or your startup is X value, EBITDA, or you're bringing in this amount of revenue per month. So we'd like you to give, in lieu of, we'll give you a credit on rent, we'd like you to give some of your product to the Auburn Senior Center, to Youth and Family Services, to wherever, to benefit those who can't afford it. Or if it was a wellness, a yoga thing, they could give classes to kids with PTSD or first responders or whatever the case may be. And that way, we're serving a benefit to both the business and the community, and we're fueling growth and tax base. That's sort of the macro picture. I spoke fast, I gave you a lot. This is a smart room. I think you caught me, but questions?
So just if I could jump in first, if that's okay? Yeah. So, yeah, there's obviously a lot of ground to cover there. But so you're not just, I mean, I know your proposal talked quite a bit about Gleason, but you're just talking, but you're also not focused only on that site.
No. Yeah, any asset the town has. So for example, the school. We have a number of karate and dance studios in town. It's an event space. Camp Gleason, again, because it's low-hanging fruit, it's really easy. It's in the front of everybody's mind recently because it just opened. It's an event space for weddings, for reunions, for what? We have a media setup. They could rent the folks from ACTV and bring in additional revenue there. We have a high school.
Wouldn't that just be like use of facility fee? Like if you wanted a karate organization to come into the school department, they would just pay a fee to use.
Right, and the schools already have that
The room.
structured. They already charge fees for that.
They do, but they're very limited on what they allow in there and when.
Oh,
It's
so
very
you're
restricted.
saying to open up.
I'm saying both to open it up and you don't only have to make it a one-time usage fee.
I think in his statement earlier, and I really appreciate your thinking outside the paradigm, but I think in his statement earlier, he made sort of alluded to, when you put something forth into municipality, it just sort of bottoms out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what he's saying is the paradigm is that we limit ourselves by doing all of this, when we really should be looking beyond that and saying, like, well, it does sound great to just do a judo and pay for space, but there's so much more that we can give, and there's so much more that person can take, and we're not allowing ourselves because of either the regulatory or the other guidelines and parameters, and some of them may be forced on us as a municipality because of state law and so forth. But he's suggesting that we think outside that box and say there are ways of utilizing to get revenue, and you have to take yourself beyond that in order to do that, because you'll immediately be cut off with those restrictions. That's what I'm hearing you say.
You're pretty much correct. It's that humans, we're habitual, right? And when we're in an environment of people, well, this is what we do. This is the way we do it. We tend to shut off the creative parts of our brain about how, as we sit here right now, the school kitchen is empty. There could be a baker or somebody that could use that.
I'm only asking because the town in which I work for, all the school use facilities, there's a revolving fund set up. So it doesn't matter what happens, the town does not generate revenue from it. The revolver generates revenue for their programming. So the town won't directly impact, the revenue won't impact the town directly. So we should, if we're interested in pursuing this, we also have to look at the town policies and see where, the policy of where this money is supposed to go, right?
Right.
And then can we tap into it? Can we take that for the general fund? Have you reached out to the recreational department about Camp Gleason?
I haven't.
Are they in charge? Who's in
Well,
charge?
Well, that's actually, that was one of my questions on a broader scale.
Questions,
That was my question on a broader
I
scale.
thought we were friends. I didn't. No, kidding. No. I think that's still being. I mean, I'm not being flip, but I think that's still being clarified.
Okay.
Because my understanding is, cable access was the source of the funding to actually get that building redone. The recreation department is doing a few things there. We had a firefighter promotion ceremony there the other day, and so right now it's still on a temporary occupancy. It doesn't have full occupancy yet either.
Right.
So, but I think we're raising all good questions here. Again, every town has a slightly different way
Yes.
of how they, for example, I'm just using this as an example. So they're doing yoga at Gleason. I don't know what fees, if any, are being transacted with the town, or is it just between the students and the teacher? is Parks and Rec, well, not Parks and Rec, is Recreation getting it? We don't know. These are
Right.
these are things we need to know, and what our limitations may or may not be of how funds can be used. The schools are usually their own separate thing as well.
Right.
So these are, I think this is information we need to get.
And yeah, and it's accessible
Yeah.
is the point, because it's public.
Yeah.
And so it is indeed accessible to all of us
Right.
at any given time, is just to
ADA accessible.
point that out.
Yeah.
It is ADA accessible.
And that's one of the beauties of this setup, right? This is if I remember correctly, this is a 501c6 setup. So it's allowed to take funds in and put it into a trust for the purpose of further economic development, or it can invest in infrastructure in the town or other things, and that's where some of that
Yes,
benefit
we would
comes
have
back.
to incorporate differently, and if we were gonna take Camp Gleason, that would have to be like given to the new Economic Development Committee. It's very,
This wasn't something that would be solved tomorrow.
No.
Can I ask some more, like, just generally, so in EDIC, right, it says in the name Economic Development and Industrial Corporation, right? And my read on the law that was passed about this and how it's structured in some of the bigger cities is that it's sort of targeting areas where there is high, what am I thinking of?
Light concentrations of
Yeah, right, blight,
Black
where there's low, where the unemployment is really high, and so would we even qualify for that as a town? And the purpose of it being more around sort of, I understand you can stretch the definition, but that industrial construct of like, I'm just picturing that the purpose of this was in these heavy industrial warehouse, factory towns that hit hardships as things moved offshore or whatever. You create this to sort of revitalize those spaces. We don't have a lot of that in town. That's not Auburn's vibe. And so I think I was just curious from like the biggest picture, would we even qualify to form one of these?
let me just suggest
Yeah.
before I respond, not that I don't have much to say about it,
Yeah.
but like I think these are all the questions. I think I think what we're doing here already is what do we need to find out? What information does this committee need to decide on which way might be better? And it's part of my job, so I'm volunteering. But like I could begin to start to look into some of those mechanisms. I would agree with my initial research. I would agree that what the EDICs I've seen are with bigger communities. But I don't know if I'm prepared to say yet that we can't, that it could be adaptable, maybe not, I don't know. Maybe we need to call it something else. But I think the concept of using our assets,
Right.
such as they are, whether it's buildings, whether it's vacant land, want to get back to productive use. I don't know yet what the exact mechanism would be, but I think this is stimulating a lot of ideas here, I think.
Absolutely. Great idea.
And so through, with respect, it's an economic development and investment corporation, right? And so where this dovetails in towns like Plymouth, like Acton, and these are not industrial areas. And one of the things I found in my research was that a lot of these municipalities, they're very limiting in scope in how they're using the powers available to them, or the opportunities that this statute provides. And so I think we could do a lot with that, where there's a lot of 40B development and we're sort of trending towards a Shrewsbury or a Westboro, and as we scale, we want to dovetail the influx in citizens in the tax base with opportunity to shop, have jobs, and do things here so that they don't go to Worcester. We don't like Worcester.
Well, I think
or
actually
Millbury
that
or
was-
wherever else.
In thinking about being on the committee, this might be a timing. One of the things that I thought of is not only drawing economic development, but one of the reasons why I wanted to be on this board was because I think a lot of people stop short when they want to bring business to a community. What we have to do is make sure that Auburn as a whole is a place where people want to show up for work. Because you can't just bring your company here if we're not designed to maintain and help them retain their employees. They've got to want to say, yeah, I'm going to Auburn today. There's places to go to lunch. There's things to do, and help them not only get here and survive here, but make their employees happy to be here.
Right.
Which is, again, what you're saying, working as as a whole, the community is a blend, from what I'm hearing, of the people that are coming in and the people that are already here.
Right. And so the small businesses and the existing medium-sized enterprise and other things, they have services that they're not necessarily, or a client base that they're not necessarily capturing here because it's not technically available, right? So to use the baker analogy, the baker needs flour. Well, they're probably going to get that from someplace else. We don't do a lot of wheat here. But we have people who produce eggs. We have people who, have shops that sell baked goods. And what I don't see happening from the town or the Chamber of Commerce or some of the other places is putting those two pieces together and actually utilizing them effectively.
I think this is, I think, the crux of economic development we're talking about.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Not to curtail this conversation at all. So we've not been given a directive of when to report back to the select board about this, but at some point they are expecting a recommendation about this idea, or adding to this idea, however we end up going. So I would ask the committee for their thoughts on how they want to do this. Do we want to? I know we have other things on the agenda tonight, but do we want to? Do we want to schedule a time to speak about this issue? Maybe make this a topic of its own meeting, perhaps at some point. And then also, what other kind of information would we want to find? And in addition to me, who else might want to?
I think this is so complex. You've thrown a lot into a very short memo that it would almost be prudent to take this and then dissect it, to then go out and to our marching orders, because you couldn't dissect this and do it all in the same evening.
Oh, I don't know.
There's a lot going on here.
I think there's a dissection that needs to happen before
we can actually act on the dissection, right? Yeah.
One question I know I have is, and maybe you saw it or didn't, other communities that have used a similar model to this, and just kind of I'd like to look into that, I guess, see how it worked for them and what they did or didn't do.
Eric, did you say Acton and Plymouth you thought had examples of this?
Correct.
Okay.
There's
others
a
too,
number
right? Yeah.
in the Commonwealth, and I think that the reason, to Mr. Jones' point, that I left it and I put a lot in a little space is to both give you an idea of what's possible, but also, like I said, you have information that I don't. There is a plan or a strategic direction for the town already, so you're going to need to take some of this rough macro picture and plug it into your plan to get the most out of it. What I hope doesn't come out of this process is that we don't pigeonhole ourselves into a narrow lane and leave a lot of opportunity on the table. I think that happens a lot.
Another thing we should also look into, your insurance.
Well, actually, liability is the whole, that's one segment of, that's, especially when you go from private to public, or you mix the two, and then, how that merits how we can even expose that to use.
But we should definitely
Well, that's
consult.
the kind of information, in addition to how we talked about some of the funding and how that gets funneled or not funneled. Do you think the insurance is an issue too, whether it's that building or another site or whatever it might be?
Oh, yeah, there will be definitely different liability exposures for this program. Yeah, because you have food and safety, you have the premise
Oh, you
liability.
have a whole.
Yeah.
It just feels like we need to maybe segment this into a few decision-making kind of stage gates, right? So if it's a hard stop that we couldn't even do it, we wouldn't even qualify, then we would have to pivot to sort of a different idea around the
use of the concept.
The construct, right.
Yeah.
If we clear that hurdle, then it's more of the how, who. But then additionally, I think that this sort of granularity around the fitness for purpose and those things around Camp Gleason, and I mean that's a very specific use case, but I think that comes at the end. We're maybe putting the horse before the cart, talking about the yoga class. That's really down the list. We need to start with what can we even do? Is this even an option for us? Is it of interest to us? And we can certainly propose that or nudge it back to the select board, but they would, I believe, be the ultimate deciders of it, because again, this has huge implications for how probably the town itself is even registered. And so I think it's maybe we can just come with like the biggest picture, the hard stoppers, and then you kind of waterfall from there. But like spiraling on all of this at once feels a little overwhelming. And to your point, we're not going to ever get to that in one meeting. And so
Sure.
Okay.
can we identify sort of those?
What would be, so I don't disagree with that at all, and I'm curious what everyone else thinks, but what would, it sounds like maybe the first step would be, we'll just call it, the structure of the EDIC, what other towns have done,
Yeah.
how they have set it up, and how that could potentially apply to Auburn. I think, is that like, that
I think
sounds
that's
like,
right.
Well, I wouldn't even go to how could it apply to Auburn. Let's not go to. Let's just say how did it impact them, and then
Okay.
you might find two things in one community really would help someone like us, and two things that happened in another community could work against us. So before we do that analysis, let's just find the communities where they tried to put it into.
So I would expect that where it has been done, there is a little bit more focus in terms of the scope of what exactly it's supposed to do within its community. Because this is, as you said, intentionally broad. I
I'm
think
guessing,
you'd have to-
yeah. But to your point, I think things were, not having done any research on it yet.
Sure.
I'm guessing, like you said, some of these were set up for specific reasons,
Right.
or a specific project, or a specific notion. So
Well, you know,
what
the
is that?
Renaissance in Detroit back in the 70s was set up for a specific reason too, and we know how that turned out.
Well,
It
sure.
just sucked the life right out of Main Street, and the whole place was.
You don't want that model.
No, we don't want that model.
And there's also
Which became a textbook.
risks of privatizing everything, and you look at a Scranton where everything's privatized and everything is terrible. The services are bad, right? So you know, slippery slope, I guess, is my kind of devil's advocate on this. Being cautious around going full, you know, moving into the private sector with certain things, because the incentives are different, and public properties are there to serve the public first. And so, yeah, I don't know. Profiting, it's just a murky area. So again, we got to understand how other towns have leveraged it, and then maybe then we can go a little deeper on the proposal. That would be my suggestion.
So I think probably the good place to start would be to decide if you want to do it. Then it requires there's a statutory package that you have to put together, and then a 2/3 vote at town meeting. So we're approaching that quarter if you wish to act, and then from there you can get into, you know, narrowing your scope as you wish. That would be my suggestion to clear the first hurdle.
So it sounds like, I don't disagree with that. It sounds like our next discussion, and we'll determine when that's going to be before we leave here tonight, but it sounds like our next discussion about this needs to be, call it what you will, a review analysis of what some of these other communities have done and how they've done it, and then see, and then go from there. That's what I think I'm hearing. Like I said, not putting the cart before the horse, but let's figure out what the legal structural framework is, what's available. You know, again, there are state guidelines of how this needs to be incorporated or set up. Let's get familiar with that, and then maybe that's a conversation for I think probably at the committee's next meeting to go over that.
And how do we go about obtaining that information and having that presented or shared?
Well, I mean,
we have to do as a committee and sign.
well, I mean,
I don't know how it works.
well, in a vacuum, I would be happy to do some of that research and present the raw information to this committee ahead of the meeting, not just dumping 7 reports on you at the meeting. We go over them, but depending on whenever we set the next meeting,
Right.
I could gather some of that municipal side stuff. Again, I don't want to, I don't want to preclude anyone else from doing, their own research. I'm here to support you, so I'm happy to do that, so we can get better education about that structure and what options might work. Say not getting yet, but like what will be appropriate,
Yeah.
what's legal,
Great.
understand the dynamics a bit more.
I think that would be critical. Yeah.
Does that sound like something the committee would want?
Sure.
me to
Yeah.
pursue?
Sure.
Okay.
I forwarded you all my notes.
Excellent. I'm already ahead of the game. So Mr. Richards, I think, and unless the committee has more questions for you tonight, I think we need to do some more homework.
Yes.
And we'll be setting up a meeting. I'm guessing it won't be 5 months from now. I'm guessing it'll be sooner than that. Again, this will be a public policy meeting, so you're always going to be welcome. But perhaps I can reach out to you as well if I need some additional information as I'm doing some of that research for the committee.
I figured there would be questions here tonight,
Great.
so,
So this,
I'm not an expert,
Yeah.
but I know a little bit.
So I think this is the beginning of a conversation with all of us. I don't think this is the only time we're going to be talking to you. So unless there's other things, I guess I'll just thank you for being here tonight. Thanks for being excited about Auburn and looking for ways we can maximize our potential here.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
Thank you.
Great, thank
Love
you.
the concept.
Thank you.
Excellent. All right. So our next referral, which has a bit more of a timeline on it, is the developing objective criteria for tax rate stuff. That other item. I think the board wanted to hear something from this committee by the end of February.
Which would mean we would have to meet a couple of times on just probably this as well.
That's what I'm getting to. I feel like what we just spoke about is a very nuanced, complicated issue. Even though we're narrowing it down, I agree. Let's break it into gates and chunks and let's go from there. But then also, I think the tax discussion could also have its own
Sure.
its own thing. So I guess that's my initial what I'm looking for. Initial proposal to the board is how do we want to deal with that? Do we want to deal with that as
Do you
a
think it might be prudent to just, one of the things I was going to bring up at other was if Tuesdays or Thursdays were, I'm new to the board, but I noticed that some meetings for various reasons were not fully attended, and I wondered if it was because, like I know when I was at the first meeting and we set the meeting, we didn't, with a couple of people weren't there, so it may not have made their calendar in a timely fashion in order to, you know what I mean? So I just think that since all five of us are here, maybe we should, including yourself, if we should think, is there a night that really works for everybody so that our plates are clear, because it was Tuesdays, but then when you rescheduled for a Thursday. So I just thought that might merit before we set the next meeting.
Okay, I certainly apologize if there's any confusion about any dates on that end. I was just trying to get my footing and get a meeting. I'm happy to meet whenever the committee wants to meet. So that's it. But I mean, if I think the discussion previously, maybe correct me, the vision was to be a quarterly meeting, or was that really established, or?
I think that was always the intention of, the meetings. But then, well, with Brooke and then she was on, maternity. And so we just didn't meet. So it was always like, oh, hey, by the way, I got some information I need to share with you. And then so she would, round us all up for a meeting. And then we wouldn't hear for
For months, yeah.
So it would be nice if we at least got, something scheduled quarterly. So
Well, I'll be correct. So do we schedule? Are there other dates on the book, so to speak?
There
or-
are not,
Okay,
because
okay.
we made it to this meeting,
Okay.
and I just, I'm just going to make an observation on being in Auburn for 35 years. Your position is very much needed. The support you're going to need is very much needed. Some of the things and challenges that we're facing are very much needed. I think it's a long time coming. I can't see a board or a position being successful if we're going to see you 4 times a year.
Yeah.
I can't see that. I think it's going to become a very participative, authoritative, and working committee. I also think that in light of some of the challenges that we have at the meeting that we were at the last time, I think we need to get some of the other departments in here that we work with, whether it's the building commissioner, whether it's the DPW, whether it's code enforcement. Some of the people that are making the decisions, I find when I ask certain questions, everybody says I don't know. So I'm just going to be blanket statement about it, but something must have happened for us to come up with a master plan, and it's just sort of sitting on a shelf and some of these things to crop up. So for me, I think we're really critical and vital in taking these maps, this space, and understanding from one side of town to the other what, if I were sitting on this board, I'd say, what's our open space? How much is commercial? What's it designed for? What can we get in there? Can we help you and support you other than one person to say, can we go fill those 3 buildings? I've seen economics and other developers in other communities find vacant buildings and go out and recruit people, but that might be solely your specific task as our economic developer. As a board, again, being being charged, what is it that we can do for you? And I know at a minimum, I don't think we can be of help to you if we're meeting quarterly. We certainly can't be of any use to the two things on our agenda if we meet quarterly.
Well, I'll just suggest that. Certainly that's, that's certainly, that wouldn't work. So maybe we should focus on that part first, is like,
Right.
you know, so, but I agree that the
I think it's all changing now.
Yeah. and.
I think you being here is changing the dynamic.
Oh, definitely.
Thank you. But, you know, I just, at this stage, I don't have a specific ask of the committee that I can say, oh, I need your help with this specific thing. However, if
But we haven't even met yet. You
Right.
came in with 2 items that now we can work on.
yeah.
So then, in the interest of moving this
Yeah,
conversation
right.
forward,
Yes.
we move to monthly.
Yeah.
That seems
Well,
like a
it sounds like in the
no-brainer.
short term.
In the short term, at least.
Short term anyway, yeah.
And
How about December 25th?
When is
Anything
when is what nights is finance committee?
It's Wednesday, and selectmen usually meet on Mondays, but I don't think that Wednesday's really my only bad night, especially because we're going
Well,
into budget
Wednesday
season.
is also my bad night by proxy because my husband's at
husband's
finance.
on finance, right, yeah.
Um,
You're right.
If I had my druthers, I would move us back to Tuesdays to open the floor to discussion.
Are Tuesdays good for you, gentlemen?
Yeah,
Thursdays are best for me.
Okay.
I could make Tuesdays work though.
Monday, Thursday are better for me.
I could do
Thursdays.
Thursdays if we did just like a little bit later, like at 6.
Yeah, so I
like
get
a
that at
6 o'clock
5:30,
start.
but I mean,
Yeah.
if we need to adapt for everyone's schedule, we want to make it work for everyone.
it's mostly a function of timing for me. And May, it was my anniversary that day, and I wanted to stay married. So.
Of
course. Yeah. Well, I wondered, when we
Priorities.
scheduled, unfortunately, when we scheduled, you weren't present for that.
That's right, yeah.
So then it was like you didn't even have a say.
Yeah, because
So-
I wasn't on that meeting yet, because I hadn't
Yeah.
voted on yet. But yeah, at any rate.
Well, we can also, I mean, it's not against the rules to communicate about scheduling via email, so
No,
we
that's true.
can, we can always do that
I
after the
think the biggest
meeting.
gap was the change in
Yeah.
town
Yeah.
oversight of the committee
Yeah.
changing.
So, so it sounds like we want to have a December. We sound like we want to have a January meeting, and I think we should have a January. My recommendation would be to have a January
And
meeting.
probably on a Thursday?
Thursday's fine. Again, a 5:45 start would even
Okay,
be
no,
better.
you
I
can
just
say
those
Even 6?
5:45 or 6. Yeah, 6 would be great.
Okay, so looking ahead, let me see if I can get my calendar up here.
That would be the 1st, 8th, 15th. We got 5 weeks to pick from.
Oh boy.
We're not
January's
doing the
long.
first.
Well, we're not going to do the first. Yeah, we have 4 weeks to pick from, right?
Maybe we look at the 15th or 22nd just to give you, Paul, a little extra time with the
Yeah,
holidays
I
to
appreciate
do
that.
some
Given
research.
the tight turnaround, relatively tight.
22nd, which is the,
22nd.
after Martin Luther King.
Either one works for me personally. but I'll defer
I
to
will
the-
not be here on the 22nd. They have the MMA annual trade
Well,
show.
that's right. That is it that weekend.
Do you go?
I'm not. I don't have funding for that yet. Dory's going. Anyway, but we're doing our budget now. I need to put some cookies in there for me. So
Is the 15th far enough out to give you time? to
I could
gather
make it
this?
work for the 15th
Okay.
if everyone would be available.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. At 6 p.m.
So we're off the agenda, but that's okay. We went ahead. No, that's important though. So again, so I think so. The question is, on the 15th, we're talking about
Tax classification.
which one do we want to talk about? We want
Both.
to
I think
talk about
We're going to talk about both.
Fine.
Right.
We'll focus on.
Those will be the primary
Yeah,
agenda.
so those will be the two agenda items for the meeting. Great.
And I mean, to that end, should we also look at the February calendar if we've been asked to
Right.
provide something to the board?
And also, in fairness, I mean, they're not redoing the classification hearings another year away.
Yeah,
So
so why did they?
Why
want
do
it
they
in
need a
February?
response? I mean, we can say we're meeting and we're discussing, but, you know.
I can have further conversations with
Yeah.
Dory and the board about that.
Sure.
To get at what their intent was. I think their intent was they wanted us to move, the collective us, to move on it.
Right.
We didn't want to say, oh, let's talk about it next November. I think that
But it's a tall order.
It
You're
is
talking
that's
about a
right.
town that's been operating a certain way for many, many years, and you're asking a board to take on something.
I am since this is being imposed on this committee by the select board, I'm happy to communicate back with them that we're working on these things,
Right.
that we're meeting on certain dates, that we might need that,
Yeah, some wiggle room.
yeah, because we don't have a specific timeline for Mr. Richards' idea, the EDIC idea, but. I wonder if, again, I won't speak for the board, maybe they were thinking it had something to deal with it ahead of town meeting, in case there was communication that needed to happen at town meeting. I don't know, but I can get more information on that, and so at the next meeting, I could see if we can get an extension in our deadline, or however you want to term it. But I agree, these aren't little itty bitty.
De minimis issues.
Yeah, right.
They're not
They
de minimis
deserve
issues.
attention, and they're probably to take a meeting or several meetings, I believe, probably to get at them.
Can you forward us the tax classification PowerPoint? I'm sure the assessor does a PowerPoint every year.
I actually
for the
have a
select
copy
board.
of it. If you'd like, I'd be more than happy to get copies of it. That'll say, but you have it probably electronically.
Yeah, so then
Yeah,
everybody can
actually,
review
yeah.
it
That's actually-
electronically. Yeah, I think
White
that
paper.
would help.
So that I can include that in the packet. I would
Yeah.
give you, and my intent would be if we're going to meet on the 15th of January, I'll try to get you something the right after the new year.
And also, I think what would be beneficial is if you could include the date of the selectmen's meeting. I believe it was the first meeting in December. And the reason why I suggest that is because it would be prudent to watch the hearing and listen to both sides, because they had people come up and speak as business owners, and they had people come up on behalf of the town, citizens, and give their feedback.
I can
So-
I can send that link, and what I can do is I can give you the timestamps, so you don't have to. You can watch the meeting. You can watch the meeting if you want, but I'll give you the window where the matter was discussed.
Thank you.
That's what you're ready to do, Patrick. Thank you.
If you just want to summarize the transcript for us, then.
On your free time.
In your free time, but let me just get right on.
So were we going to do February's meeting as well? The 12th?
Just for consistency,
19th?
what if we just say third Thursday? Third Thursday of
So it'll be
every.
the 19th.
Yeah.
Well,
That's vacation week, I
school
think, right?
Oh, that's
vacation week,
vacation week.
so I would,
Push it to the 5th.
Push it to the 26th?
12th?
Or
the
earlier.
26th.
either or, I'm okay.
You can't do it on February 5th. That's a very special day. Oh, we're being televised, aren't we?
Yes.
We are.
Again, I'll speak for myself. I'm here
Okay.
to serve you.
Yeah,
Not
either
good
of
any of
days
those
good.
Thursdays.
Yeah, same here.
So I guess it's a question of whether you go earlier in February or later in February.
Yeah.
26th isn't much later in February, so there you can go.
Yeah, that's pretty late.
Um, Either one's fine.
Might as well go earlier, right?
Yeah, let's go with the 12th.
Okay.
That way, if it snows, we can always schedule it for the 26th.
Move it to the 26th. Okay.
All right, so I'll on my end, I'll do the internal logistics to make sure. And again, at some point, I'd like us to meet at Gleason, but I don't want us to meet at Gleason until we have the full occupancy and whatnot. So I would anticipate right now that we'll meet here.
Okay.
All right, well, thank you for doing that, 'cause that's kind of a good logistics. If we could back up in the agenda, I think we had an item here, recent upcoming events, and we have a couple of things listed. Holiday stroll, I think. Well, Patrick, maybe you could speak to that. You're involved with that.
Sure. I'll just mention briefly, I don't want to give too much information because we want to meet as a committee and sort of go back and this was like they wanted to do a real big holiday stroll, but the time frame that we gave ourselves as a committee wasn't much. So we just did an inaugural type of go out promotion and try to get everybody, to get flyers out and to get people's attention. And we set up a tent near the firehouse for the tree lighting, and it went rather well. It was not the tree lighting itself, it was like 4 degrees out, and we all had 5 layers on, and there was no fire pit. So it was a little tough, but I have to tell you that the motivation and the amount of effort that went into it was 125%. So we got what flyers and what people were available. Those people that did take the flyers and come to the booth were very receptive. But I think that one of the things that we will be discussing when we go back and sort of revisit, how everything went, is that we've got a tall order, which will be starting in January to promote it, because we didn't reach out to as many people as maybe we would have liked. If it had been a little warmer, more people would have shown up.
Now,
But it was positive.
the recreation department, they don't partner with this? Because I'm thinking in Grafton, right? Like, recreation, like they partner in all of it, and they have like these frosty stops. And so like they have this thing on Sunday where like all these businesses, they promote things. And so like, you know, all the kids and families go to each business and they stop. And then at the end, they gather at the commons. But the recreation, they help like coordinate all of that.
Well, our goal in promoting it was to get volunteer interest. So we advertised if you wanted a business, a vendor booth, either a vendor booth that you were going to have a product that you would make and you could sell, or something that could be a takeaway because they had some kind of a item like so families could be engaged.
Right.
So they could make a wreath together with their parents or something. It'd be something in the afternoon that the children get out. So we're trying to draw the community as a whole. We're not just trying to get vendors there to...
Pat, just to clarify, when you're saying we and us, who are you
I'm referring to the Holiday Stroll Committee.
Okay, and that's a
Which
town
is a
committee,
combination
or
of, well, it's
the
a
chamber?
combination of my understanding was that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when I was here in July, the chamber had taken footing in it and had approached Brooke and asked Brooke if there were some people on the Economic Development Committee that would participate, that they were wondering if we would show an interest. And so that's how I ended up pairing up as sort of representing the Economic Development Committee and taking a step there and so forth. And so that's, and I believe, Mary, you did as well. You showed interest.
But then like, I got out of the loop. I emailed, they said, okay, we're going to meet this first day. I couldn't. And then they're like, okay, we're going to meet every Thursday at this time.
Oh, it was
And
every
then-
other Thursday.
And then I showed up and nobody was there. I emailed, nobody emailed me back.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
It got lost in translation.
I seen all the correspondence, but like,
Right.
you know, I did email them like, hello, I do exist.
No, but what will happen is in January when we regroup, you'll probably hear from us and you can step in then.
Okay.
And the whole idea is that they want to keep it. My understanding is we want to keep it to Auburn businesses and Auburn residents first for the first year because we don't know how big it'll get. But there is this general sense that if it grows to a good size over the years, that it may not stay over near the tree lighting. And it's actually, I don't know if we'll be in the same spot next year, but it might be prudent to have it there because if people come for the tree lighting and they can see all of the tents and the buildings getting ready to go up for the next day, that's only more publicity. And they also picked that area at the time because it's already pre-decorated because the trees are up and everything else, so somewhat of a festive area for the town. But in general, you know, for the efforts that were made, my hat goes off. I mean, there wasn't a person that didn't come back later and say, you know, I worked with a team that we showed up at 3:30 and nobody stopped until 8 and it was really positive and everybody got a lot of work done. So it was a lot of fun.
I think so. I have two questions just out of curiosity. How is this being funded? Is there a fundraising effort?
Well, the chamber donated all of the money at the beginning, but there are costs. And what is happening now is I believe you said I always screw up the acronym, but the DCG group. Actually, we went from, when we met with the DCG group, it seemed like a tall order because there was a lot to do for the 12 tents. But then when we realized the amount of work that we were up against, we scaled it back to this promotional thing. So what we have to do is we have to talk about all the logistics, because if you have small businesses that are going to want to have either a tent, which someday may become something else, there's these wooden structures I've seen in other communities that they sort of cast off to the side and keep until the small businesses can use for people that are doing startups and so forth. But in order to get to that state, it takes donations, it takes time, and it takes money. So again, small businesses only have a certain amount of income that they can work with during the year. So therefore, one of our challenges as a Stroll Committee is how do we make it economically feasible for them to come and participate and not lose money. So that's one of our 12 letters at the very
Here I was going with my line of questioning.
Yeah.
But Pat, this is going to be a going concern, and you guys will be meeting through the course of the coming year.
Exactly. So we're going to sort of look at, I think our meeting in January is going to be, okay, what did we do in December? How did it go? And where do we, now where do we need to step up and set some benchmarks and timelines?
So hopefully, maybe at some point, volunteering, you'll come back and report to us on what's going
Yeah,
on.
well, yeah, I
When-
think
when it's appropriate.
when it's appropriate, I'll
And
say
then we don't have other stuff going on. Right?
exactly, and I'll say, can you put me on the agenda because I have an
Yeah,
update?
that sounds
Something
great.
like that.
That sounds perfect. Thank you, Patrick. Any other questions for Patrick before we move on? Okay. The other thing we have listed here, Goddard Centennial. I think folks may be somewhat aware of this. I know I'm not directly involved with it, so I can't speak to all the details, but I know that there's going to be more to. Imminently, there's going to be more things publicized out there with the post holidays. We already have the new Goddard sculpture at the over there by the park. We don't have the rocket anymore, but we have the sculpture, and so the event is taking shape. It's going to be happening over a period of several days in March. I don't have my little handout with me. You want to say it's like the 13th, 15th, and 16th? Why is there a gap in the middle? Because that's when Worcester St. Patrick's Day Parade is, and so there's a combo with Worcester people and Auburn people because of the Goddard connection. So they didn't want to double dip, so to speak. But Chief Coleman on our end, Fire Chief Coleman is kind of the town's point person on this, and from some of their initial analysis of this, there could be they're planning for tens of thousands of people, potentially up to 100,000 people over the course of the event. So apparently, and I didn't know this. I know this is
All the like rocket
apparently
enthusiasts.
nationally,
apparently there's a lot of rocket enthusiasts out there. I mean, when I was a kid, I was always into the astronomy stuff and all that. But apparently there are groups out there, and the groups who like to travel. And Goddard is kind of a big hero to a lot of folks. And so even if it's 10,000 people, I think that's going to be a great day for Auburn. Let alone 100. That's another story. But I know there's going to be a lot of programming around it, and the idea being hopefully not only our local businesses going to get a hit that day for people going to buy food or staying in hotels or doing whatever. But hopefully this could be also a point of community pride going forward, of course, which it already is. But sort of have it be somewhat of a rallying point. But I'm not sure what this committee can itself do to go beyond what's already happening. But certainly that's going to have a significant impact to the town, both on the day of the events, but also hopefully there's some carry on going forward. And one of the hopes I think is by getting people to come to town, we might be able, and this is something we need to talk about as a town as well, but maybe there's some other marketing materials, what other things we could provide there, have some, have a table, have some paraphernalia, and we talked about, how we can drum up and attract some businesses. Yeah, so I just wanted to make folks aware. I think folks are somewhat aware of it, but there's going to be more to come on that. But it really isn't shaping up to be a big day, or big weekend rather, for the town. And so, you might want to park your car and not drive it that weekend, or some people, you might, depending where you live, you might want to, like they do at the Patriots games, rent out your driveway before the game. There's some economic development for you.
What's generally planned for the event?
There's going to be among other things, there's going to be dedications of the monuments. There's going to be rocket launches over at Packagug. There's going to be like
Get your golf in, or your winter golf in, because
there's going to be like model rockets, but then there's going to be a recreation, not full scale, but I think a half size scale recreation of Goddard's actual rocket.
Wow.
That they're going to do. So those are going to be some of the events for sure. I know there's other things that I'm probably leaving out, but there's going to be allegedly something for everyone, family fun, all that.
The library is hoping to draft off of it a little. There's actually a collection of really great photographs and old prints that are in the storage at the library, and we're hoping to get those up again so that we drive some folks into the library to just kind of tie in. I mean, it's right there, proximity. So rather than it just being a parking lot for the event, have some folks stop into the library and see our resources.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you're in the Friends or you're
I'm on the board of trustees.
The board of trustees. Okay, yeah. I know Mike's on I think he's on part of the Centennial Committee. I don't know. The library's going to be well represented.
Yes.
In the day.
Yeah.
It's obviously a very strategic location.
Yeah.
I had to think for other events. Anyone aware of any other events going on that we should be aware of?
well, we have the Memorial Day Parade and the 4th of July. Those events are annual town events that stand out
Sure.
without thinking.
So yeah, there's something to be mindful of, and then something maybe this might be an opportunity for us to participate on some level, but we can gather more as we go. Right, you already talked about next meeting dates and future topics. We were well ahead of the game there. We did have an item here for approval of minutes from 5/20/25. I do have some minutes here. Bear with me for a moment. I think there were several of you. Okay, hold on. Where's my paper? Right here. I have too many clips here. All right, that's my text. I'm off. Here's my agendas. I apologize to the committee here. There's an article that I'm not going to talk about right now. Here's Mr. Richards' ideas. My notes. Ah, here we go. Last thing in the pile. So I had, well, I handed out to everyone, but I had Mary, Lindsay, and Donnie as being the members present. So do that way. Patrick, sorry.
Which one was this?
This is the data I
Oh,
have.
right, this is the meeting, right. We couldn't vote on these minutes because I wasn't present in the meeting and there wasn't a quorum to vote. Right.
So yeah, we have 3 members who are at the meeting here. So for business, if the members who are present,
I will make a motion to approve the minutes of May 20th, 2025.
Second.
And I abstain because I wasn't here.
Okay.
I abstained as well.
Any discussion? No discussion? All in favor?
In favor?
Aye.
Aye.
thank you. I assume Brooke had done these and did them well.
I actually wrote these.
Oh, thank you. Well, then I'm sure they're done very well.
Thank you.
Great. So, is there anything else we want to discuss tonight? Not that we.
Well, I mean, who's doing these going forward? The minutes.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't think we have minutes from the last.
Good question.
Oh, we haven't met since this meeting.
What did we have?
We met in May.
Well-
I'm sorry.
Nay.
May's meeting or June, something like that.
Did we
Was
have?
it June?
Wait, because didn't we brought these?
I think
It was
May
May.
was the last.
May was the last
Because
one.
the February, these minutes, we couldn't vote on it in May
May,
right.
because we didn't have quorum to
Right, so
vote.
we have May
Um,
minutes then.
And so we don't have May minutes. Those, we would have voted on those tonight, but we do not have May minutes.
Right.
Wait. So just to clarify, what did we just vote on? These were the.
February,
Okay.
yeah, we voted on to approve the February 4th, 2025
Right.
meeting minutes.
Did we not meet in May?
No, we did.
We did.
But it was just the 3 of us in
Right.
attendance, right?
But these were the last
Right.
minutes I found in
Yes.
Brooke's file. So
Okay.
whatever that's worth.
Because also at that meeting, we voted for you to become chair and me to become vice chair.
yeah, maybe
But we didn't vote on other positions, so that may be just a point for maybe
So-
January, we can put
so-
that on the agenda for a short, a
For
brief
this
vote.
meeting, what I can do is I'll work internally with staff. We'll go over the meeting recording
Okay.
and we'll get really
Do-
wants to volunteer. But I wonder if I would hope that in the future, if we're, I alluded to the position we want to fill for economic development specialist, that may provide some additional staff support for this.
Okay.
But
I'm wondering if we should make a motion or just in the next agenda item, you'd want to put to reorganize back on it because then you can put it on the agenda.
I think that's a good
Then we
idea.
can reappoint them and then they'd be in queue to
Okay.
be official.
Yeah, it'd be better to not just have the 3 of us
So we do
cherry
this-
picking positions. Yeah.
January 15th.
January 15th to reorganize and then, yeah.
Okay. And we can talk more about it then, but in the interim, I'll get us at least some bare bones minutes.
Okay, that sounds good.
And yeah, I always hate to make people do minutes, so a lot of times,
The only thing that really came up at the meeting, other than myself being recognized and then voting on that, was we were updated on the Starbucks
okay.
circumstances, and
Okay.
then that was really the whole meeting.
Okay, well, if you like, I can give you a brief update.
Sure.
Not much to say. You might be aware that the planning board had denied a permit for Starbucks to go in at the Bentley site. And then that applicant subsequently sued the board. And that's going through litigation and negotiations as we speak. I can tell you that the board board members have been deposed, and there was an executive session about it just this week about the issue. So allegedly right now a trial is set for February. So that's where it stands right now. So basically nothing is going to be happening with that site, unfortunately, until at least that, whether it's Starbucks or not Starbucks, or pending the results of that matter. So that's the brief update I can give you on that one.
And Paul, just
Yeah.
good news, because I just remembered, I actually do have minutes from the May meeting.
Okay.
When Brooke left, I didn't know anyone to send them to, and we didn't have the meeting scheduled, so
Well, now,
I never circulated them. So I will send these to you if, yeah,
we can
if they're,
circulate,
they're
we can-
probably worth a once over, but
That's
it's been
great.
a while, but yeah, so I can send these to you, and then if at the January meeting we can
do that.
organize
in this minute.
sort that out,
That's
yeah.
great. Thank
Okay,
you for
yeah.
looking at that. Great. Anything else? It looks like we took care of our business in a pretty efficient manner, which I thank you all. Do you want to?
I will make a motion to close the meeting at 6:49.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good night, everyone.
All right. Thank you.